everyone, I'm back at, I'm actually back at the Nature Spectacular site today. And there's a new festival going on called Fire in Your Soul, which is all about food and fire and smoke and all things like that. So a couple of guys here that I know, so I'm gonna have a chat with them and enjoy the day. The weather is glorious.
So this all started, I was a chef running some kitchens in Bath and basically decided to put something on the menu for a special event. So I did a venison sausage with melting red wine gravy cubes inside, using a few chefy processes that we do, and it worked, and it kind of gave me the motivation to kind of carry on and do something a little bit differently. I then set my company up as an artisan hot dog seller for doing street food. COVID happened, that stopped all the food and things like that, so I started making them from my own home and then shipping them out over via courier. That's my company there. So the name of the company is Sosij. It's spelt like this because it was a joke between me and my dad when we were young. It just kind of made us laugh, and I always like the idea of something bringing you happiness. Another reason why I started making these is because over here we don't have sausages for barbecue, but you look at South America or in Korea or places like that, you've got a lot more sausages that are more meaty and they take on heat, and you can cook them a longer period of time at a lower temperature, and there's nothing in them other than just meat and flavours. So I've kind of tried to fill in a void in the market here, go for just barbecues, but as time's gone on, I've had to adapt to air fryers and ovens and everything like that. So it's just allowing me to put anything that you possibly shouldn't inside a sausage. Here I have got some rare breed pork. This is a mixture of shoulder and belly. I find that there's a really good fat content, and in here, because I'm not using any artificial ingredients to emulsify or stick this together or any rusks, I want a good fat content, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to add in the spices to a certain percentage. I've also used a little bit of milk powder because I'm basically extracting the protein from this by smashing it around. If I put in something like milk powder, it contains a lot of protein, so we're falsifying the process a little bit. It just helps make it sticky, especially in the open air. It's not very good. So this is about 3 kilos of meat. I'm going to pour in the mixture. So in this, today I'm going to be making a raclette sausage. So I spent a lot of time in France when I was younger doing snowboard seasons. I've seen everyone go on holiday this year. I haven't been able to go, and out of spite, I've just made a sausage to get the flavours of it. So it's raclette, there's pickled onions going in it, there's rocket, there's some mustard seeds, onion seeds, there's a bit of rosemary in there. And the thing is, I don't want to overcomplicate the sausage meat because the flavour is in the pickled onions, the rocket and the cheese. So this is the not so fun part. And I'm going to try not to stop talking whilst I do this, but I'm going to be smashing this up. So I'm based in Upton Cheney, which is just in between Bristol and Bath. There's also a chili farm that's on the same site. I've been up there for about 3 years, and it's been tough the last few years just to build up a business throughout COVID and things like that. What we're looking to do here is we're going to heat up the meat. We're going to heat it up naturally with our hands. We want it to always stay quite cold because it keeps the fat nice and cold. If you heat the fat too quickly, it's going to melt. So we need to do it nice and slow, but at the same time, the more we work it, the more it's going to start getting sticky. So I mean, you'll see it's starting to, but it's not, it still flakes apart. We want that to be like quite sticky, so it should a little bit. I mean, you want it to sort of stick to the bottom of your hand. But essentially, it's the same as when you're working pastry for getting the gluten out. Essentially, you're going to be doing the same to the meat. So have you seen now, it's starting to get a bit more sticky. Like it should start looking a bit, the way I describe it starts to look a bit like chewing gum. The strands get like long and stringy. No butcher in their right mind would sit here doing this every single day with the amount of quality that they're going to knock out. So mine is a bit of a top end sausage, but I'm more of a USP, isn't it? Well, it's designed by a chef. So I think with the flavours and things, I think you can sort of play with it a bit more creatively. Yeah. And I prep all the ingredients, like I'll smoke all my cheese, I'll smoke salt, I'll cure things, I'll stick all that into the sausages. So it's a lot more, it's like running a restaurant and cooking a dish, but essentially it's just going into a sausage. So I've designed these to sort of be more like the meal rather than part of the meal. Basically what I've done is I've mixed it enough so that the proteins have started to wake up. You can see now it's starting to stretch, so like you would with dough essentially. And what we're looking for is something that will just stick to the bottom of my hand when I turn upside down. I think if it sticks too much, it's too much. You want it to gradually just release on their own. I mean, that's perfect. So in here, I'm going to put in a kilo of raclette cheese and then chuck in some pickled onions. So I've rinsed these pickled onions. Obviously with raclette, you sort of serve it over potatoes with pickles, about half of it. In a kitchen, you always want like precision trimming. So chives, parsley, really nice julienne, really nice chiffonade on things. With this, in a sausage, if you do that, it disappears. So I like to actually leave things quite chunky. So whole rocket, parsley, just roughly chopped, that sort of stuff. That just gives it a nice bit of colour and a bit of pepper as well. Okay, so as long as it's evenly mixed through, it just needs to be a bit sparse, you know. What I'm looking for with my sausages as well is when you're eating them, it's not one flavour all the way through, so it's just a unilateral eating experience. What I want you to do is have different mouthfuls with different ingredients in each mouth, so it changes. So it makes it a bit more interesting to eat as well. And also when you cut through it, you get a lovely cross-section of melting cheese and pickled onions and all sorts. So these are just natural hog casings. They're all salted. So what they do is they salt them and then they dry them out, stick them in a bucket, and they last there for years. I then rehydrate them in water and then refresh twice. Acidity is something that really kills the skins. So if you are ever making sausages, be careful with what you chuck in the sausage. This is the bit that's the most glamorous about sausage making.
What's the average length then of the skins that?
I'd say minimum you can get about 5 kilos in there, up to 10 to 13 kilos. It varies, there's no sort of set length, obviously it's a natural product. There's a few different ways of making the sausages, so I don't tend to tie the ends, but I will just for today. So what we're looking for is when we're tying it, a lot of people will do this and then they'll tie one at a time. It's okay if you're, it's a novice way of doing it, it's quite slow. I always pipe it all out and then twist it because I'm balancing it anyway, it's just going to recorrect itself. So always make sure the skin's down on the end, get rid of, you don't want any air in there really. So as you're doing it, you'll see it start to move. So when you're piping the sausages, you've got this to think about, you've also got your fingers to think about. This is what's going to control the flow. So if I want it loose, I can just let it go on its own and it will just come out naturally. If I want it really tight, I can hold it back a tiny amount and it will make it a lot more plump. The thing is, I don't want it quite plump. I want to literally just squeeze it because eventually I'm going to be pinching and then I'm going to be twisting it. So it's a bit of a balance of...
So it's like rubbing your stomach and patting your head.
Exactly that, yeah. What I normally do is just smooth it out, just make sure there's no massive air bubbles or big sort of chunks of like excess meat in one place or like kinks. So just smooth it out a little bit, it's easier to tie. That's quite a dense section, so I have to be careful tying that. Then what I do is I always find something to use as a jig to kind of give me the right size. So at least I'm going to get them the right size. So there's a lid. So what we're going to do, I'm going to pull that as tight as I possibly can. And then measure against here. So I'm going to pinch either end. And then I'm going to twist it round a few times. The first one's always rubbish because you're basically just starting off the bottom end of that one. So a nice chubby one to start. Then here we can take it, go to the end, pinch it off. What I do is I then miss one and twist this one. So basically what I'm looking to do is plump them up. So where they're like this and not so great, it then makes you a really nice plump sausage. So annoyingly so, I haven't got racks in my unit, so I have to tie them one way and then tie them another way. So the traditional way and the not so traditional way.